find anything suitable, they are entitled to get 75% of their money back for any reason. So within 30 days, the tenant comes back and says, well, I don't want to live in this place anymore. I'm going to go back somewhere else. The broker must refund 75% of their money. If the list is wrong in any way, shape, or form, the broker must refund 100% of their money. So those are the two conditions of the refund, but the request must be made in 30 days from the date of purchase. 30 days. So whatever those 30-day period is, tenant comes back, either gets 75% of their money back, or they get 100% of their money back, depends on the circumstances. If the broker does not do it, it's considered to be a first-degree misdemeanor. The broker will be fined $1,000, and the time is up to 6 to 1 year in jail. It's a violation of the 475 statute. Question. Broker sells a prospective tenant a rental list for $100 on May 1st. If he wants a refund, it must be requested by May 31st, 30 days. From May 1st to May 31st. Question. Broker sold prospective tenant a rental list on March 8th for $100. She inspected all the property and found it to be occupied. On April the 6th, she demands a refund. What action should a broker take? Answer is? No, not B. That'll be A. Is within 30 days. She gets it immediately because it's on, the question says on April the 6th. Is within 30 days. So on April the 6th, she gets the money immediately. Don't have to wait. The broker has to write a check and give them cash for $100. As a sales associate, being an agent of the broker or owner developer, only the employer can pay the associate, nobody else. Money is paid for services to the sales associate. But for tax purposes, the sales associate may use a name, not a trade name. It's not a trade name. What the law says, the sales associate can incorporate their personal name in order to get compensation. And they have the license issued in that name, but they must have their name in the corporate name. They can't use a trade name. So what the sales associate is going to do is going to incorporate their name either as an LLC or a PA and have the department issues the license in that name. And the broker is allowed to pay that entity for tax purposes. It's not a business structure, that is a brokerage. It's a business structure that is allowed to receive compensation on behalf of the licensee. But it's the licensee's name that is incorporated. Only brokers can use trade names, not sales associates. Sales associates are only allowed to use their own name, but they're allowed to incorporate their name as a PA or an LLC in order to get compensation for business purposes only, and have the license issued in that name. PA to be Terrence Nero, PA, if I'm the person, Terrence Nero, PLLC, or Terrence Nero, LLC. Must have the name of the associate. Then the broker can legally pay that entity for tax purposes. And that's what associates do for tax purposes, not for licensing purposes. So must notify the appropriate authority of the change and mailing address. If one is going to change a mailing address, that's you. One has a timeline to inform the department. What's the timeline, folks? 10 days to inform the department of the change of address. Changing employer, same time. Changing a mailing address, same time, 10 days. Changing residency. What is the timeline to inform the department of changing one's residency?
60 days.
60 days. Know your timelines. Timelines are important because the department needs to know that you understand the timelines. That's why they put it in your state exam questions. Know those days, they're very important. Then you have these entities that are allowed to register as brokerages. The difference between a real estate company and a real estate brokerage company A real estate company is formed to do things for themselves, not for others and for compensation. One more time, a real estate company is doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for others, they're not doing it for anything else. A brokerage corporation is when the broker chooses this form of business entity to perform a service of real estate on behalf of others. And the broker registers that entity to perform the service. So a corporation basically is an entity that's formed to do things for themselves. And a brokerage corporation is incorporated and registered to do real estate services for others and for compensation. Are we clear? Those are the differences between the corporation, that's its real estate, and a real estate brokerage corporation. The brokerage corporation is doing things for others and for compensation. That the broker has set up this type of entity to meet those objectives. So according to the 475 statute, these are the business structures that are allowed to register as a brokerage. These are the structures that are allowed to register as a brokerage. You have a corporation, you have a partnership, either limited or general. There's a sole proprietorship. There's a LLC and the LLPs. LLC means a limited liability company. LLP means a limited liability partnership. These are the entities that are allowed to register as a brokerage. A joint venture. A joint venture is a temporary business arrangement, may act as a brokerage. Keywords. A joint venture may act as, but not register as. A joint venture is a temporary business arrangement between two individuals to accomplish a goal. So a joint venture may act as a brokerage, provided there are two active brokers as part of the joint venture. So two active brokers can combine their efforts for a single business transaction that is temporary. It's a temporary business arrangement, and it may act as a brokerage, provided there are two active brokers in the joint venture. They can combine their efforts and form this entity known as a joint venture. So they can act as, but not register as a brokerage. So keep that in mind for those words in your exam. A joint venture may act as a brokerage, but not register as a brokerage. So when it comes to a corporation, this is a business structure. For the business structure now to become a brokerage, because it has to be a business structure first, it just doesn't automatically become a brokerage. These entities are business structures that are allowed to register as brokerages, to perform services or real estate on behalf of others and for compensation. And it's the broker's choice. Is the active broker's choice what type of entity the broker is going to use to practice the service. So one of the entities the broker can choose is called a corporation. So for a corporation to be a brokerage, it must be registered with the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. That's how it becomes a brokerage, through registration. And in doing so, the officers and directors of this corporation must be either active or inactive brokers or non-licensed registered persons. Active or inactive brokers or non-licensed registered persons. At least one must be the active broker. At least one. They all can be active brokers, but must have at least one. And if the only active broker decides to leave the corporation, then the corporation has 14 days to get another active broker. If not, the corporation ceases to be a brokerage, becomes just a business structure. And all the licensees who are registered there becomes involuntarily inactive, because it's not a brokerage anymore. It just reverts to being a business structure. You have to appoint another broker. Nope. No business can be accomplished because you don't have a broker. You don't have an active broker. Business ceases until the active broker is appointed. The old business can still continue, but not new business, because it's still a business structure. The old business can still continue, but no new business can be formed. Sales associates and broker associates are not allowed to be officers or directors of this entity that's registered as a brokerage. The law prohibits that. However, they can be shareholders. They can be shareholders, meaning you can own shares in the entity, but cannot be an officer or a director. That's the 475 statute when it comes to this type of business structure. A partnership. A partnership that is general to become a brokerage, just like a corporation, it must be registered with the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. And in doing so, the general partners must be either active or inactive brokers or non-licensed registered persons. At least one of those partners must be the active broker, at least one. They all can be, but must have at least one. And if that only active broker decides to leave, the rules are the same. The entity has 14 days to replace. If not, the registration as a brokerage is canceled. And it becomes just a business structure and not a brokerage. Sales associates and broker associates are not allowed to be general partners in this general partnership as a brokerage structure. The law prohibits that. Sales associates and broker associates are not allowed to be general partners in a general partnership that is registered as a brokerage. You can be in a business structure, but not as a brokerage. Question. 6 brokers wish to become partners in a real estate agency and be active in real estate sales. So the correct answer is gotta be B, because the question says how many of them want to be active? All 6. So all 6 must be active brokers. If it says 6 individuals, then the answer is C. If it says 6 brokers, then they all have to be active. You all have to be active brokers. A limited partnership as a business structure is also allowed to register as a brokerage. So in order to do so, the registration must be filed in the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. And when it's filed, the general partners must be either active or inactive brokers or non-licensed registered person, just like a general partnership. At least one must be the active broker. And if the only active broker decides to leave, the partnership has 14 days to replace. If not, the registration is canceled. And all the licensees who are registered there becomes involuntarily inactive. Sales associates and broker associates are not allowed to be general partners in this limited partnership that's registered as a brokerage. The law prohibits that. However, seeing that limited partners are allowed to invest cash or property and not participate in any management activities in the entity, the law does allow sales associates and broker associates to be limited partners. But if they are limited partners, they have no say in how the partnership functions as a brokerage. They're just there to put their money and put their property, and they cannot participate in any management activities. None whatsoever. They're just there as investors and get a share of the profits if there's any. That's when the law allows that, just like shareholders. But they cannot have any say in how the entity functions as a brokerage. They're there to put their money, to put their property, participate in the profits or losses, and have no say in how the entity functions as a brokerage. So those are the entities you need to be familiar with. What are the particulars to them to become a brokerage? So these are the particulars in summary form. The 3 common requirements are: they must be registered. They are business entities that are allowed to register as a brokerage. And the registration comes to the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. They must have at least one active broker. And if the only active broker decides to leave, then the entity has 14 days to replace the only active broker. Officers, directors, and general partners must be either active or inactive brokers or non-licensed registered persons. Sales associates and broker associates are not allowed to be officers or directors in a corporation. They're not allowed to be general partners in any partnership. But they may be, write this here.
Right there next.
They may be, what's here? White. red. There may be shareholders here. Nothing here. Or there may be limited partners here. Maybe the 1, 2. Shareholders.
Can you dim one of those lights up there so the?
Name one of those lights. Let's see if we can dim a light here. Better? Okay. So, they may be shareholder in a corporation or a limited partner in a limited partnership. That's all they can be. Officers, directors, or general partners are outside their responsibility. All these things going. There's a saying in law that perception is more powerful than fact, or perception sometimes is reality. And this is where this concept comes in, and it's based on this legal principle called estoppel. And this principle says perception is more powerful than fact, and it's the public's perception what it is. So this is why we don't share office space with other entities or individuals unless there is proper signage and proper disclosures that we have no private business arrangements with the other entity or individual you're sharing the space with. So if there's no proper disclosures or no proper information, and the public comes into the office shared by 2 people, they can have that perception that they are partners. And what they have formed in the eyes of the law, based on this legal principle called estoppel, is that they have formed an ostensible partnership. The word ostensible means it's artificial. It's not real, but it has the same liability of a partnership. Not the benefits of a partnership, because it's not real. But the law says you are a partner, and therefore you're held responsible for the actions of the party you're sharing the space with. Whatever goes along in that space, you're held responsible of each other. You have the liability of a partnership. That's why it's called ostensible, quasi, or artificial. It's not a real partnership, but it has the liability of the partnership, not the benefits of the partnership. And that's why we are very careful when we share space with other individuals or entities. The public has to know that we're not related to the person we're sharing the space with, because their perception is that you are a partner, and therefore their perception comes in court when there's liability to be awarded. So question, 2 brokers decide to share office space. They do not use a trade name or a common letterhead, although they share a secretary. Prior to putting up their signs, prospect comes into the office and is defrauded by one of the brokers. Based on this information, which of the following is correct? It has to be C. Right? Because they have formed an ostensible partnership. Therefore, the broker is responsible for the other broker's illegal actions, or whatever, or wrong actions. It's nothing but committing estoppel. You can't commit a legal principle. It's impossible to commit a legal principle. So, that's when we share office space with another individual or entity. Is that? I didn't get it. Well, if you got to put proper signage or disclosure, say, look, I'm not responsible, or I'm just sharing office space with the other person. Just like the attorney, I got himself into trouble. Man and woman sat in front of the attorney, and the attorney asked the man, "Are you married?" The man said, "Yes." Turns to the woman and said, "Are you married?" The woman said, "Yes." So the attorney put on the form, guess what? Husband and wife. It turns out they were not married to each other. Big difference, isn't it? That's why when the attorney asks questions today in front of two people, man and woman, it says, are you married to each other? So don't assume, right? That's why those questions are there. Are you married to each other? The attorney should know better. Got himself in trouble by making that assumption. And you know what happens to assumptions, right? Let's go to the back of the book. Let's look at questions that pertains to this chapter. Question 237. Says, buyer Smith gives a post-dated check to sales associate Brown that the seller accepted. Smith told Brown to hold the check for 2 weeks until he debarked to flight to New York and transferred the funds from a savings account to a checking account. On the date Brown receives the post-dated check, the broker was out of town, but returned the following business day. Following the buyer's instructions, Brown deposited the post-dated check into the broker's escrow account 2 weeks later. Sales associate Brown has to be me, right? Should have turned that check over to the broker when? By the next business day. It's not his or her responsibility to keep the check. Give it to the broker's responsibility to account for it. Question 483. 483. Question 483. This statement is true with respect to limited partners in a limited partnership formed to broker real estate. I just mentioned it.
B.
Very good. B. Limited partners are not allowed to participate in any management activities. They're just there to put their money and their property and have no say in how the entity functions. That's why sales associates can put their money there as limited partners. Question 486. Peggy and Joan wish to form a partnership to buy and sell real estate for others. This statement is correct.
A.
No. Answer is B. Either one of them. Could be the active broker. They both can be, but there's no requirement for both of them to be. Either Peggy or Joan must be the actively licensed broker. Both of them can be, but A is wrong because the word must. If we say Peggy or Joan maybe, then it's okay. But not must. Only one of them is a must. Question 495. Question 495. By Norma, gives sales associate Julie a post-dated check as a binding deposit and told Julie the check would not clear until the following week. Broker was tied up with negotiations on a large transaction. So Julie presents Norma's offer and disclosed to the seller that the check was post-dated and would not clear until next week. Seller asked Julie to hold the check and deposit it when the funds were available. Broker was unaware of this arrangement. Which statement is correct? Gotta be C. Both Julie and the broker has a problem. Because Julie's responsibility is to do what? Give it to the broker. 496. Sales associate Sandra wants to advertise her home for sale. What may happen if she advertises it in her own name only?
C.
Gotta be C, right? She can do it, but she has to disclose that she's licensee when serious negotiation starts. That's when he makes an offer. Then she tells them about the disclosure. Question 531. Question 531. An earnest money deposit can be placed in all of the following institutions except a stock association. A stock association is not insured. 537. Which statement is correct regarding a corporation sole? Keep in mind, a corporation sole is a church, which is not allowed to be registered as a brokerage. Why? IBC, corporation souls have title holders, and title descends to successors in office. And that's the reason they're not allowed to be brokerages, because no active broker would be a title holder. The title holder is the priest or the pastor or whoever it is. That is the title holder to the soul. And that's the reason they're not allowed to be brokerages. Corporation soul. 540. Question 540 says, without specific authorization, it is a violation for a sales associate to accept which of the following as a deposit? Yes, you can't accept a post-dated check without the seller's approval. The seller must give the approval to accept the post-dated check. You can accept a cash, you can accept a coin, you can accept something of value. Post-dated checks requires the seller's written consent before accepting. Question 560. Question 560. Which business structure may not act as a real estate broker? Yeah, corporation sole, the church, because of the title problems. Question 562. Question 562. Sales associate is selling his or her own property. What information will be required in the broker's advertisement? It has to be the brokerage entity's name. Must be the ad because you're listing it with the broker. If you're doing it for yourself, you don't have to disclose your broker's entity's name. If you're doing it through your broker, that's its requirement. Question 610. Question 610. A licensed sales associate receives a cash binding deposit from a buyer on a parcel of land. Before the sales associate can give the deposit to the broker, the sales associate loses the deposit. Who is responsible? Both the broker and the sales associate. And what they will be charged with, class? Failure to account. Very good. It's called failure to account and deliver. Where's the money? Don't know it. I'll lose it. I lost it. It disappeared. 623. 623. Question 623 says, what must be included in real estate ads and on signs? Yeah, it's the name of the brokerage firm. It's a requirement. That's the must. 625. In a partnership, each partner does not necessarily have which of the following? Yeah, they don't have to share it equally. They can share it unequally. But they have total liability, total responsibility, and that's the reason it's called a partnership. But profits can be shared equally or unequally. Question 633. 633. It says, Florida law requires that brokers place escrow deposit into an escrow account. What else is required by the law regarding that account? Yes, the broker must be a signatory. It is a requirement. Must be a signatory. Question 638. Which action by a broker is an example of commingling? Yes, putting it in one's personal account. 643. Sue Douglas wishes to open a real estate brokerage corporation, Sunshine Realty, Inc. When ordering her sign, she's required to include all of the following items, except D, yes, the phone number. So if the broker decides to put the phone number, where does the phone number appear? Right at the bottom, very good, distinctly below. Question 648. Question 648. What is the deadline for a broker to deposit all earnest money funds? Oh, not C. That's just D, David. It's called business days, not calendar days. Don't get all excited, you see three. Make sure it's the right date. All right, they do that to you in the exam. Put all those nice things just to tease you. 652. 652, which of the following is required in a real estate brokerage partnership? Well, in a brokerage partnership, you must have at least one general partner must be the active broker. So the answer has to be C. At least one of the partners must be the active broker. At least one. They all can be, but must have at least one. 655. Once an offer is accepted and the escrow deposit is in the broker's account, the broker holds the deposit on behalf of which party or parties? Yes, it belongs to both people. It belongs to both people. That's right. That's why you have the dispute procedure. Very good. 657. Bob and Mary agreed to participate in a limited number of transactions. Bob and Mary have no right to obligate and bind each other. Which business relationship have they formed? It'll be a joint venture. 658. Which form of escrow settlement procedure requires the parties to abide by an objective third party's decision after hearing? Abide means arbitration. Abide means it's called arbitration. Question 665. 665. Why can't a sales associate work for more than one broker or one owner developer at the same time? Because? Answer C. Because you're an agent of your employer. And you only can be agent of how many employers? Only one. You only can be the agent of only one employer. Question 668. Question 668 says, which business structure incorporates limited as well as unlimited liability? No? It's called a limited partnership. The answer is D. You have a general partner who is totally responsible, and you have a limited partner who is only responsible for the amount of the investment. That's what it's called, a limited partnership. Question 680. Question 680 says associate Sally decides to use a post office box for all her mail even though she's not actually moved out of her house. Which statement applies? Well, when you change your mailing address, what you have to do? Notify the department within how many days? 10 days. Mailing address, when you receive your mail from the U.S. Postal Service. You have 10 days to do so. Question 685. 685 says, broker receives a deposit check on Monday and deposited in his escrow account the following Monday. The check subsequently is returned with non-sufficient funds. What fraud has the broker committed? Answer is D. David. It's called culpable negligence. Because you have to put that money in immediately. Question 702. 702. 702 says, sales associate receives an offer from a buyer along with a posted check. What action must the sales associate take? Got to be immediately give it to your broker. And the law says immediately means by the end of the next business day. You have to give it immediately. Question 720. Question 720 says, what kind of partnership exists when one or more parties cause a third party to believe a partnership exists when no partnership actually does? Let's call that ostensible partnership. Perception of the public. 725. 725 says, when may his associate take a deposit without his broker's permission? Under no circumstances. You can't do it without your broker's permission. You're working for your broker. Your broker says you can't do it. You can't do it. Question 735. 735. After transaction fails to close, the buyer and seller make conflicting demands on deposit held in escrow by the broker. Broker probably notifies the foreign receipt commission of the dispute. The parties to the contract refuse to resolve the dispute, and the broker elects to settle the matter in court rather than ask the commission for an escrow disbursement order. If the broker has no interest in collecting a commission, which legal action should be filed? Call a bill of interpleader. Very good. If I change the question, if the broker wants to claim some of the money, what he'll file? Direct adjustment. Yes, very good. Guys, know this stuff. See? Not that difficult. Question 740. Question 740 says, broker receives a deposit on a property, but the seller rejects the offer. What should the broker do? If the seller rejects the offer, what you do? Give back the money. Right? Give the deposit back to the buyer. Offer is rejected. Still the buyer's money until the offer becomes a contract. Then the money belongs to both parties. Very good. See? Wasn't that difficult? Question 775. I didn't discuss this. Let me go it over before I get you to the question. Now, in the process of practicing the service and obtaining a deposit from the buyer, if the buyer inadvertently makes the check payable to the associate, there's two actions the associate can take, and you have to look at the question to see which one is available. The first of the two is the associate can endorse the check and give it to their employing broker. That's okay. Or they can request a replacement check. But make sure you pick the answer, the replacement check should be made payable to the associate's employing broker. So those are the two choices and the two different questions, right? So they will have the two answers to choose from. One, I would ask you either endorse and give it to your employing broker immediately, and the other question, the answer will be request a replacement check, and the check should be made payable to your employing broker, not the listing broker, the sales associate employing broker.